Hello, Physics 20s. What I'd like to do today is, go over the um, three definitions that deal with resonance. And so you've probably heard of some of these before, and the video that I posted is excellent in highlighting resonant frequency and how to break a wine glass with your voice. So I'd encourage you to watch that. Um, but the three definitions that you need to know are these here: resonant frequency, forced frequency, and mechanical resonance. So I'll just highlight them and give you a couple of examples because you need to know their definitions and you need to know an example of each. Resonant frequency, let's start with that. It's the natural vibrating frequency of an object. So often all you have to do is hit an object and you'll hear the resonant frequency. Okay, a lot of materials are really complex, so that won't really, if you hit something, it may not really do much. But if it's of uniform density for the most part, it may create an audible sound, at least for the human ear. So actually what I wanted to show you here is a, oh, here, I've got it right here. I wanted to show you this, if it will play for me. This is a video here showing a guy with a tuning fork tuning a piano. And it's well known what oh, here, we back up so you can see this. When a tuning fork is vibrating, what's happening is it's creating compressions of sound waves. Well, they're sound waves, and they're radiating outwards from the tuning fork. And you may have heard of, if you know anything about music, you may have heard the note A440. An A note is 440 cycles per second, or 440 hertz. Every other note, standard note, has a frequency. Okay, and usually they're not, just A 440 is an easy one because it's a whole number. But this is going to show here what happens. It's a good overview of what happens when the tuning fork is vibrating back and forth. It's vibrating back and forth so fast you can't see it, but if we slowed it down, it would literally look like this. It'd look like paddles that are kind of striking the air. So you have to imagine these little balls as air molecules, and they're getting pushed and compressed by the tuning fork, and then they bump into and compress the air molecules beside it. And then that propagates outwards at what we call the speed of sound. Okay, so that is what we're talking about when we're talking about the natural vibrating frequency of an object, and we're going to look more at that a bit later. Now, in the video, it highlighted, they didn't talk about it, but it's called forced frequency, and that's the rate at which a force is applied to the object. So if you have a wine glass, you can like wet your finger and then rub the rim of the glass, and depending on the pressure and the rate at which you go around the rim of the glass, you will cause it to vibrate as its resonant frequency, and you'll actually get it to kind of sing a little bit. It's really kind of fun to play with. The other classic one, of course, of a forced frequency is pushing a kid on a swing. Okay, so it's like the rate at which, how frequently are you pushing a kid on a swing? Now, intuitively, when you were young, you figured out that you don't just push at any rate, but that you match the rate of the swing. And so you push at just the right time. And if you do that, then this happens. Okay, then you get mechanical resonance. Okay, and mechanical resonance, sorry, I'm going to move that. That happens when the forced frequency matches or nearly matches the resonant frequency. And then you'll get resonance. And the result is that the amplitude dramatically increases, often to the point of structural failure. So this is where, like as you saw in the video, you can sing a pure note, or as close to the pure note as you can get for the for the wine glass, and you can cause it to vibrate so much that the glass fails. I wanted you to see two quick examples of that, and they're highlighted in this older video here. I'm just going to kind of speed it up. Oh yes, right here. So here, I'll just play it from this point. So in this video, it's showing A as amplitude, and don't worry about the math part, but that funny W is omega. So you see omega 0 in the bottom right hand corner, and the arrow is moving closer and closer to the W0, which is the resonant frequency. As the forced frequency gets close to the resonant frequency, the amplitude gets really, really big. Okay, and actually that's the telltale sign that you are getting to the resonant frequency in the first place. So this little animation, as it's playing, I just want you to watch. We basically have a mass in a spring system, and if you displace it under ideal conditions, it'll just keep oscillating like that. Okay, so you see the mass and spring going up and down. Now, the line at the bottom where it says F0 sine, and then that's omega t, that's the forced frequency. And that's basically the rate at which you are pushing on this mass spring system. So it's like you're giving it a push at a certain rate. But you can see that it doesn't quite match the resonant frequency, and so it's just an erratic result. But right here in just a second, the forced frequency is going to match the resonant frequency, the actual frequency of the mass spring system. Here it comes right now. So look what happens. It's matching the resonant frequency, and look at the amplitude increase. It's off the map. Okay, but it's because the forced frequency is matching the resonant frequency, and that's what this old film is showing here. That's what causes the huge increase in amplitude, which is the result of resonance. Okay, so we get back to right in here where the amplitude of the mass spring system is just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. It's because the force frequency is matching the resonant frequency. I really got to show you this. If you study engineering at all, and especially when it comes to the design and build of bridges, you will learn about this bridge right here. I'm playing this video while I talk. This is called the Tacoma Narrows Bridge. I think it was built in the I wouldn't say it was the 1940s. I'm not sure. But it's in the state of Washington, and it was over a place called the Tacoma Narrows. It was a suspension bridge. This is showing film footage of when it was kind of first opened. This is showing film footage of when it was being built. And even when it was being built, people noticed that it actually kind of swayed up and down a bit. Can you see in the video how it's like it's breathing. It's like it's going up and down. Now it's a suspension bridge, so it's not a fixed bridge. Suspension bridges, have you ever been on them? Obviously with a bunch of cables and a structure in the middle. So, but the engineers weren't overly concerned about that. But look at how much sway there is. It's just bonkers to look at this film and think that any bridge built today would ever be safe if it was moving this much. But people, for whatever reason, didn't question it much. And actually, I shouldn't say the 1940s. Those cars look a lot older than that. Maybe it was the 1930s or something. I don't know. Anyway, but look at the sway in that. So anyway, they built the bridge. It functioned for a number of months or something. But then one day, the winds were just right. They were only about like 40 miles an hour or something. And then it started doing this. So do you see that twisting motion? This was like everyone freaked out at this point. Nobody got off the bridge. Like they closed the bridge. And actually someone parked their car in it, but I think he got off the bridge. I don't know. He might have lost his car. But anyway, just the film guys can look at how much sway there is there. That's just crazy. So the bridge eventually fell. So the inner portions completely ripped apart, and like the whole midsection of the bridge crashed into the Tacoma Narrows, and everybody couldn't figure out what the heck was going on. So the bridge shouldn't have failed, basically. So as this video plays, though, there was, here, I'll maybe speed it up a bit. There was an aerodynamics professor at Caltech, von Karman, I think his name was. He came up with an answer, and he said the reason the bridge failed is because of aerodynamics, and it's something called vortex shedding. It's when air moves over kind of a rough structure, it creates eddy currents. And those currents of air can exert a force on the bridge. And he proved it, though. Von Karman proved this by running a wind tunnel test. So he created an exact replica of the Tacoma Narrows Bridge in a wind tunnel and showed the same movement, obviously to scale. So in a wind tunnel, he got the up and down movement, which is characteristic of what you're seeing right now. And then he also got the twisting motion. Look at that. So at higher velocities, again, it was around 40 miles per hour, he got the same twisting motion that was observed on that day when the Tacoma Narrows Bridge failed. So as it turns out, the bridge itself is not aerodynamic. It has a, wind as it blew would exert a force underneath the bridge and on top of it and cause it to start twisting. And as such, I believe today, as a result of that, large-scale bridges like this have to pass the wind tunnel test. Okay, so a replica has to be built in a wind tunnel, and they run tests on it to make sure that it can withstand winds up to whatever, however hard they want to test it. Okay, so that is resonance. It is a fascinating. It's a fascinating principle because there's lots of applications of it, and if we have more time, maybe I'll pull up some other or let you look at some other examples. But between the videos and whatnot, that's it. That's it for the remainder of the chapter. Just understanding resonant frequency, forced frequency, and mechanical resonance. So what I encourage you to do is continue to review. Like, there's no math with resonance. It's just a principle and a concept. On the test, you might be asked to define each of these principles, each of these definitions, and give me an example. But outside of that, you just need to know pendulums, the math for pendulums, and mass, or the formulas for masses on a spring. So look for some more information about an upcoming test. So anyway, keep up your good work, you guys.